And this?
This is on. He will turn it on when it's
Yeah, she's going before me.
then we have to turn it on.
Do we have, is she hooked up? Oh, okay. Okay, this is the chance for anybody here who would like to say anything, some special memory of the center or some reminiscence, something like that, that this is your chance. Something you liked about it, something you didn't like about it. You can and we already have a few people who have volunteered, and Rina Chakravarti will give 7 minutes. We'll give us 7 minutes, okay. And then Vasantai will come, will speak, and then Shama will speak, and then Sridhar will speak, and then we'll see how much time is left after that. Okay. And Shukla Didi will say something also. This is the daughter of Abhadi Mashi. You know the story of Abhadi Mashi? Yeah. Abha Chakravarti was older than most of the others, so they all called her Abhadi. But all the children, they all knew that everyone was their Mashi. So they put them together and called her Abhadi Mashi. So I used to call her that, Abhadi Mashi. Yeah, she was Abhadi for the others and should have been Abhamashi for them, but she became, anyhow, that's the story. So, and Doi Moida, so they were, of course, for the original people, so Shama will say something about it.
So hi, everybody. So my name is Sharmila Sachdev, but I am known to many of you as Shama Chakraborty, with Shama being my daknam and Chakraborty being my maiden name. And as Shamiji said, my parents are Ava and Doimoy Chakraborty. My dad is currently living in Peoria, Illinois with my brother Paul. And my mom, well, I'd like to think that she's always here with us. Even though she left her physical body in 2018. So what I'd like to do is share a bit about my family and how relevant the center is and its growth over the years to us as a family. I grew up a stone's throw away from the center, just across Belpre Road. And my parents moved there a couple of years after immigrating to the US from London. As a kid, growing up in the wonder years, as I call it, when Sanskriti was still a young, blossoming cultural organization, I grew up in really an idyllic neighborhood with an amazing community of Bengalis in the surrounding areas. Here in this community, I came to know so many of my parents' friends. My mashis, my meshos, my kakas, my kakimas, many of whom are here in this room. And my parents, as Shamiji said, were a little older than many of them, so they were affectionately known as Avadi and Doye Moida, or Avadi Mashi in some cases. Like many of my peers, same age as me in this community, I was the lucky recipient of so much love, culture, camaraderie, and social connection. But we didn't realize until we were older the struggles, challenges, and sacrifices that our parents had faced coming to a new country so different from their beloved homeland. My mom was raised in Kolkata and was influenced by her family's devotion to the Ramakrishna mission there. She carried forward the spiritual path in the US, first privately, but then later she became part of a core devotional group with her dear friends, consisting of Rina Chakraborty, Maya Chatterjee, Shukla Chakraborty, Jointa Sharkar, Rina and Pankaj Basu, and Mashima, who was Arun Guha's mom and mother-in-law to Kajol Guha. Much of this core group took initiation between the mid to late 80s, 1980s, and my mom was initiated by Swami Nithyasthanandji in Portland, and this was a very great blessing for her to be initiated by him. She was very close to him as well as many other Swamijis, especially Swami Swahanandaji. She was very close to him. He was very influential in her life. Even into her retired life, he had great effect on her. My father, though philosophical in nature, was never really active in the Vedanta groups, but he fully supported my mother in her spiritual path. But Swami Swahanandaji, my father took a great liking to him. They were both from East Bengal, so they could really let loose together. They were kind of one and the same, with humorous wit and belly laughs and a lot of humor. And when they weren't laughing together, you might have seen them off to the side, taking noshi together, which they loved to do, taking snuff, which they really enjoyed. Swami Swahanandaji was very keen and aware of this core devotional group and how eager they were to move forward in spiritual growth. So in late 1996, Swami A arrives to Maryland, and my mom, along with many others, of course, were very enamored with the idea of having a center close by. So they worked with full effort to try to make this happen. At one point, my mom and dad were even thinking of buying a small house and having Swami A live in the basement. But that didn't happen. So this lot was purchased, a wooded lot with a small house, and it just happened to be right across from the neighborhood that I grew up in, so that was quite a blessing. So needless to say, Swami Sarvadevanandaji, Swami A, Swami B, and all others at the center became very close to our family, and we just really cherished them all. And my mom over the years was thrilled to see the center flourish and grow. I moved to New Jersey in '97 after getting married, and she would always call me saying, "Oh my gosh, did you see what, find out what they've been doing, the additions they're making, they're so wonderful." So she was so thrilled. So on behalf of my family, we are so delighted for the 25th Jubilee anniversary celebration. And so from a small core group of believers to a thriving community of a multitude of devotees. How lucky and blessed we all are. And I'm happy to introduce my very dear Mashi, Rina Chakraborty, who will be speaking now.
Don't worry. Yeah.
Sorry, don't get scared. I tried to do it in 3 minutes. Impossible.
No, don't worry. Take your time.
Way back, when there was no Vedanta Center of Greater Washington, D.C., I would tag along with Pankaj Basu, Reena's husband, to Virginia. Met Swami Chaitanyananda, Swami Adishwarananda, Swami Lokeshwaranandaji, and our Carol McKernan. Another place we went to visit Swamis was at Dinesh Sharma's house. Met Swami Prabodhananda, Swami Bhaskarananda. At Mr. Sood's, I met Swami Bhashyananda, later Swami Dayatmananda. In 1986, I received Diksha from Swami Gambhiranandaji at Belur Math. Met Jayanta Sarkar and Ilu there. I used to correspond with my Gurudev. He instructed me to meet with devotees and sent me Meetu Bhattacharya's phone number. Jayanta Sarkar started this group. We read Leela Prasanga once a month. The regulars were Abhadi, Maya, both Reena's, Shukla, and Mashima, Kajal's mother-in-law. At Reena's house, met Swami Pramathananda. At Jayanta's, met Swami Swahananda, Swami Tathagatananda, and many others. Next memorable moment was meeting Swami Brahmarupanandaji. He conducted pujas at Shiva Vishnu temple's auditorium, also at a Montessori school. Most impressive were his retreats at New Windsor, Harper's Ferry, met my Bhai Shibu there and Frederica. Next phase was when we heard rumors that Belur Math wanted a Swami to start a center at the nation's capital. Very soon, our dream came true. At Rameshwar and Shukla's Chakrabarti's home, Swami Swahanandaji introduced us to Swami Atmagyanananda, smiled and said, "Many attempts were made to start a Vedanta center at nation's capital, but didn't materialize. If anyone could start a center, it would be Stuart, our Swami A." Soon Swami A showed up with Trishul in a small white van, and they procured a tiny house on Belpre Road. Exaggeration? No. The shrine room was so small, we couldn't fit in it. So lectures were held at a community center. Pujas were done at a school auditorium. So now, Thakur, Ma, Swamiji were amongst our midst. The construction of the first phase began. More devotees joined. And of course, Swami A started his woodwork of building shrines. In summer, the highlight was a huge tent where we had our lectures. Soon, more devotees joined, and our construction of second phase began. Thakur's murti was procured from India. We had a huge library, huge kitchen, and a gorgeous handmade shrine. Now, why I cherish our Vedanta Center of Greater Washington, D.C. It is not because of the gorgeous temple or library or kitchen. It is because of the dedication of all the Swamis, past and present. And a huge part are the devotees. Many are no more. Definitely also the present wonderful sisters and brother devotees. Now excuse me for relating some personal incidents to prove my point. All our Swamis follow Swami Vivekananda, and they see the divinity within us, Shiva Gyane, Jiva Seva. Now, Swami Swahanandaji, such compassion, love, support for all, no matter how different. Once, a mentally challenged lady came to visit, but refused to leave. Swamiji dealt with her with such compassion. He allowed my husband to discuss politics with him. He loved jokes. There were peals of laughter when my husband and Aparna related their jokes. Very soon, I found my husband receiving Diksha from Swami Swahanandaji. Whereas Swami Tathagatanandaji was quite the opposite. One evening, my hubby had a heated argument with Swami Tathagatananda, stormed out of this building, asking me to follow. I was heartbroken. Early next morning, my husband and his car were missing. Later, I found out that my husband had walked into Swami Tathagatanandaji's room, and Swamiji embraced him, and both wept. Swami Sarvadevanandaji, we all witness his simplicity, love, compassion for us. Last time I visited, he offered me juice and took my empty glass. He has immense responsibility, yet he's always smiling. Swami Brahmarupanandaji, our own Swami B, is like our mother. Once lunch was over and a stranger walked in and asked for prasad. Swamiji took food from the fridge, warmed it, and offered it to her. He saw Narayana in that lady. I remember a Swami Mahayogananda, such an austere sadhu, yet so caring. Our young, ever-smiling Brahmachariji Kumar is following in their footsteps. For years, he gave us rides for Ramnam, back and forth, with such care. Now, to our Swami A. I see the difference between a householder like me and a monk of the Ramakrishna Order. Total acceptance, surrender, utter dependence on Thakur Ma Swamiji. No matter what his body undergoes, you would know. So independent, fearless, dedicated to meticulous work, just as Thakur Ma wanted the devotees to follow. To end with Swami C. Chidbrahmanandaji. He always talked about God as love, and for us to be selfless and help others. I have personally benefited from this many times. Few years back, our son was out of town. My husband fell at long-term care and was admitted to ER. I joined him there, hours passed. At 5 p.m., Swami C called me and said he will be with us. He was with us till midnight. They couldn't procure an ambulance to drive my husband to long-term care. Swami C notified the nurse that he was taking responsibility, scooped up my husband, put him in his car, put the wheelchair, drove him to long-term care, dropped me off, and returned to the center way after midnight. The Swamis practice what they preach. So what's the difference between householders and monks? The monks treat us like their own family, but if they are posted somewhere else, they will leave everything and go at the drop of a hat because they follow non-attachment. To conclude, I hear there is new blood amongst us. Many young karma yogis and devotees are amongst us. They are following the examples of our Swamis. And that is all because the blessings of our own dear Thakur Ma Swamiji. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Vasant Mistry. My humble pranam to Thakurji, Mataji and Swamiji. My humble pranam to late Swami Swahananda Maharaj, Swami Sarvadevananda Maharaj, Swami Manananan Maharaj, Swami Brahmarupananda Maharaj, Swami Chid Brahmananda Maharaj and Brahmachari Kumar. Thank you, Swamiji, for giving me opportunity to speak about our memories. I would like to talk today about beyond this center and would like to talk how Swami Brahmarupananda Maharaj has laid the spiritual foundation in this metropolitan area during more than 10 years prior to the establishment and in the absence of this Vedanta center. In 1980s, SDR Vedanta Society was established by 35 family devotees. And the first president of the SDR Vedanta Society was late Dr. Vibhuti Mazumdar. He personally went to Belur Math to request a establishment of the Vedanta Center in DC area. About 40 to 50 family members celebrated every year in 80s Thakurji's, Mataji's and Swamiji's birthday puja, Durga Puja, among many other Kalpatarude Puja and many other pujas, and also attended 2.5-day retreat every year. Now, everyone felt, during the retreat, about more than 100 devotees attended the retreat. Everyone had a wonderful experience. And Swami Brahmarupananda Maharaj had performed all these pujas, conducted all these classes, conducted retreat, provided spiritual advices, guidance for more than 10 years in the absence of this Vedanta Center. In early days, SDR Vedanta Society devotee used to bring Swamiji from Chicago Vedanta Center every year or every month as needed also for pujas, classes, retreat, and so forth. And Swamiji used to do the pujas and classes in devotees' home. And also, we used to have a retreat in the rented location. Now, in those days, we didn't have, the SDR Vedanta Society didn't have a place to worship or do puja or attend the classes or whatever. They used to do at devotees' homes. And the devotees especially felt blessed when their time comes to use their homes. And all the devotees felt so blessed in the company of Swamiji while attending retreat, classes, and pujas. And all the devotees' children grew up with Swamiji, including our 3 children, grew up with Swamiji in that spiritual atmosphere with Swamiji. And we considered ourselves so blessed. This continued until the present Vedanta Center was established and SDR Vedanta Society was merged into this Vedanta Center. And that was 25 years ago. We are very grateful to Swami Brahmarupananji Maharaj for establishing the spiritual foundation by conducting classes, retreat, and doing pujas and providing guidance. For 10 years prior to the establishment of this current Vedanta Center, in the absence, we are very grateful to late Swami Swahananda Maharaj, Swami Sarvadevananji Maharaj, Swami Atmanananji Maharaj, Swami Brahmarupananji Maharaj, Swami Chit Brahmananji Maharaj, and Brahmachari Kumar for establishing this Vedanta Center and providing day-to-day spiritual guidance, doing retreat classes, doing pujas, doing many other things. But most important, they are radiating spiritual vibrations into our lives that has made our life so blessed, I cannot describe even. May the spirit of Thakurji, Mataji, and Swamiji be infused into more and more devotees by their contact of this Vedanta Center is my earnest prayer. My humble pranams to all the Swamijis. Thank you, Swamiji.
Namaste, Swamiji. This has become such a wonderful place, and yet again, it almost feels like a home when we come here. And it is such a wonderful place that we almost tend to take it for granted at times. But we got to stop and think how wonderful this place has been and what a blessing this has been. And for myself, I want to go back, and I think between Reenadi and Vasant, a very nice historical has been covered. You brought back so many beautiful memories and our bringing up here. My time with the Ramakrishna Mission goes back to 60s. 1966 to 72, I spent 6 years growing up under Swamiji's in a very transformative period of my life. With Prabodhanandji as the head, who spent much of the time in San Francisco in later life, after 1990 or so. Tadrupanandaji, Adidevanandaji, and several monks, Bhajananandaji, who became Bhajananandaji later. Lot of association with Swamis, to a point that whenever I saw Ramakrishna Mission Swamis, I somehow felt I am just a child under them, and we took that kind of a freedom everywhere. And in later years, that was the 60s, 70s, continued that way, and we got married, Rajeshwari and I, and we moved to Australia. And 5 years, it just mirrors the development here. We stayed in Melbourne, lived in Melbourne for 5 years. I was working and Rajeshwari was getting her PhD. And there was a very similar Vedanta society of devotees. And Swami Damodaranandaji from Fiji used to come. Every year he would spend 1 to 2 months in each of our cities and conduct retreats, including in our home. And we were always singing with all the Swamis, and retreats there as well, very similar. And subsequently, Melbourne and Sydney were both looking for a center, and Sydney got the center. And so anyway, we have moved on to 90 here. As soon as we came, the very first Swami we saw was Swami Brahmarupanandaji and Bhashyanandaji in Chicago, where we were for a few months. And from there we came to Maryland in 91 itself. And first exposure was our Vedanta Society with Neelima and Vibhuti Majumdar, Choksis, Vasant, Soodji, Dwivediji, all of our friends here, and Tathagatanandaji, somewhat controversial at times. And in the very first meeting, and an informal one, it's just on a kind of a fun side of how Swamis think at times. One of us sang, Sakali tomari icha moi taratumi. I think just the second line, Tathagananji said, stop, stop, stop. This song was stopped. We are putting our entire responsibility on Ma. What are you doing? Anyway, so the beautiful exposure of Swamis, and subsequently, I think Vasant recounted very nicely how Swami B came and became the nucleus for all of the devotees here. And so many years have passed, and in fact we were blessed to have several retreats, and we used to have Ramnaman every Ekadashi day instead of the first Saturday and so on. So we had the pleasure of having that for very many years. And subsequently, thanks to Swahanandaji and Swami Sarvadevanandaji, they saw this as the right place to get into real action of a center. And Swami Ye came along, and some of us actually wondered in the beginning, Swami Ye, how is this going to be in the center? We were not accustomed to having a non-Indian, originally a monk. So many people thought about it. But you know what? I don't know if I have seen a better Swami Ye. And such an openness, such a mine of knowledge, leadership, and the innovative leadership, the most best example of the innovative leadership from you all was the acquisition of this place and what you did with it. And then subsequently, very soon we saw the real true karma yogi, and that's Swami Ye was. And he is at once working in the carpenter shop and building something and doing the lawn, and other side teaching everything that we want to learn. It was all such a beautiful atmosphere, and your openness to all of the people from every walk of life, and your wonderful friendship with Swami B, and him finding a lovely home here. That really, I think, nailed down the entire relationship among the entire community here, and we all became the wonderful followers. I'm actually getting chills in my body when I think about that. This was a wonderful thing. We were looking to Swami B to settle here on a permanent basis in this area. The center came, and some of us were wondering how things are going to happen. But I think majority in part of that nature, you brought it all together, and the center was built, and rest is history. What a beautiful center we have had, and this has been a home for periods to so many Swamis that have come here, and in turn, we have been associated with such wonderful, wonderful monks. And after Swahanandaji, we have been blessed that Swami Sarvadevanandaji has been coming every year here. And the last 2 days of his lecture is resonating for some of us. We were not looking for a deeply intellectual, complex Vedantic principles here. I think he condensed it down to such a simple framework here. Atmano mokshartham jagadhitaya cha. I mean, what a wonderful theme it is. We are pursuing our goal all the time, but we are always concerned about the people around, which I was so this is such a thing for us to get this message back again, that this is for our own good, that we are not helping somebody. We are being helped, and we are being transformed. I think we are following that principle very much. And if I have one one comment. Actually, I have to confess that after the several years of attending Sunday lectures and Ram Nams, we have ourselves been slacking in attending on all the programs and participating here, but we look forward to, it has been invigorated, that spirit in us again in the last 2 days, Swamiji, that we want to involve ourselves a little bit more and come here more often, do more things here as well. And also this, the Karma Yoga part of it and the volunteering and doing some service, we want to also kind of involve a little bit here and see what more could we also do in that direction, and which is going to help us also spiritually. And I only will end with one slogan that reverberates for me. Very recently, Swami Nithyasthanandji, who is the current head of Bangalore Center, I happened to listen to a small lecture of him, and it was a similar thought that Swamiji was bringing. The uniqueness of service. What is service? This is all he was explaining in that lecture. We all work in different levels as students, as employees, and as householders. We all do the work, but when you combine the work with true love, it immediately becomes service. So that is the Karma Yoga that Swamiji was explaining. Simply karma, we can all do it and grow our ego, but with the love, it is becoming Karma Yoga. So anyway, in conclusion, this is so heartening, and we are so blessed to have this beautiful center, and it's 25 years. And as Swamiji said, we are looking forward to the decades of beautiful service here, and all of us coming together and growing ourselves as well. Thank you, Swamiji.
Then and now. It was exactly 25 years ago. There was a rainbow in the sky, iridescent droplets of shimmering colors. The magical stairway of Iris, the messenger of an ancient mother goddess. It spanned the path of a traveler journeying towards the east, and cast a spell, a charm around his course, guiding him and protecting whatever quest or call he was summoned to. The traveler reached his goal and found his home, but where is that art stairway, the magical rainbow, today? Has it vanished after doing its job? I don't think so. It has found its home too, and is still at work here. The mystical arc has completed itself into a full circle, an invisible ring of sacred fire, a moat around this castle of ours. Like Lakshman's Gandhi, it creates a safe heaven here for us. It sprinkles this magic dust on all who comes here, transforming and uplifting them. This is where we come home. This is where we laugh, sing, weep, and heal. Here, Mother holds our hands. She wipes our tears when we fall, and she smiles with us when we succeed. And she teaches us, her wayward children, how to be worthy of her. And someday it is our hope, yes, I do dare to hope, that the magic of the celestial rainbow, that iridescent stairway of the messenger of the Mother Goddess, will lead us to that majestic bird with magnificent plumes, entering whom we all will become one throbbing ocean of sheer, joyous, pure colors.
Well, thank you, everyone. For those who don't know the reference, when Trishul and I drove cross country, we, I think it was through Indiana or West Virginia, I don't remember, but there was a huge rainbow that went right over the road, and it's a perfectly straight road. And it felt like we would drive right under it, but hours and hours and hours we're driving, and still in the distance till the sun went down. And just the road was exactly in the middle. It was really something, a wonderful way to come here. And yeah, so really 25 years, it's been a great experience. We've all become one big family. Huh? Good. Okay, we'll have our next program. We'll set up the... This session is about the essential spiritual practices, and there'll be short talks in the beginning, that first Swami B and then myself and then Swami Vivekananda, and then we'll have time for questions, and we can all sit together and answer the questions of whoever they're directed to. So do we have the paper and pens still here? Yeah. So you can be thinking of questions even before we start, anything about spiritual practice and spiritual life. Anything. We may not answer it.
afternoon, everybody. Namaskar, and welcome to this afternoon program, panel discussion among the three Swamis and participation by all the devotees during question and answer. As you know, the topic chosen for this panel discussion is essentials of spiritual practice. When we speak about spiritual practice, there are so many different types of things that one can do, and confusing variety. Everything appears interesting, and we can only do a few things. In the earliest age, Krita Yuga, the main practice was meditation on Brahman, as described in the Upanishads. Ultimate reality Brahman, tapas, that people could do. But later, in the second age, Treta Yuga, when Sri Ramachandra Swami was there, the major spiritual practice was performing elaborate Vedic rituals, Vedic yajnas, over a period of many different days. And during those yajnas, conducted by the rishis and sages in the forest hermitages, the Rakshasa demons used to create a lot of disturbance, and Rama Lakshmana has to go and solve the problem. You know that. In the third age, Dwapara Yuga, ritualistic worship became the most common practice, Puranas, as described in the Puranas. And temples were built, congregational worship became common. In the Kali Yuga, all those things are difficult. We cannot do elaborate Vedic rituals as they did in the earlier stages. And we cannot, much less can we do a meditation on Brahman, the ultimate reality, nameless, formless, attributeless. All those things are difficult. And great many teachers have made it very easy for us in this Kali Yuga, when there are so many disturbances and difficulties in people's lives. So the easiest practice is to just chant the name of the Lord. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is simply chant with devotion the name of God, that will solve all problems and take us to the ultimate goal of realization. So he said, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama iva kevalam, Kalau nastyeva gatiranyata. That was very simple. And then Sri Ramakrishna gave instruction of 7 or 8 different instructions, including chanting God's name, repeating God's name, singing and chanting God's names and glories, holy company, prayer in solitude, doing all our work, and discriminating between real and unreal, all those things he added. And in before that, Prahlada gave 9 steps of devotion. Some of you are familiar with that one. Now, so many different things are there. So many different teachers have given wide variety of instructions. Then comes the Bhagavad Gita. In the Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna described all the 4 yogas with some major emphasis on Karma Yoga. Almost every chapter, some reference is made to Karma Yoga. And Sri Krishna said, Bhagavan Sri Krishna said, by doing only one thing, you can reach the ultimate goal, realization. For Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it was repeating God's name, Hare Nama. For Bhagavan Sri Krishna, he said, if you do all your work as your worship, then that will take you to the ultimate goal. So karmana tamabhyarchya siddhim indati manavaha. We are always doing everything. Everybody is always doing some work. Nobody can be without any work even for a short moment of time, that we know. So if you do all work as worship, then we'll be worshipping God all the time. Our whole life will become an unbroken stream of worship. That seems very interesting, attractive, and easy to do. But if you do only one thing, always repeating God's name or doing only work all the time, then mind wants a little bit variety also. So Bhagavan Sri Krishna provided an intermediate answer, not just one, which may become tiresome sometimes, not too many, but he gave a list of 5 easy, simple things that everybody can do. And that is in one shloka in the Gita, 11th chapter, last shloka, shloka number 55. There Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, If you can do 5 things, then there will be some variety also in our spiritual life. No monotony, always repeating only God's name, how long can we do? Then he said 5 different things can be done. Those are in one sloka, last sloka in chapter 11, mat karma karan krit mat paramaha mat bhaktaha sangavarjitaha nirvarisara bhuteshu yasamamiti pandava. A person who does all these things will reach me. He said, let us do this, understand these 5 different things briefly. First thing is mat karma krit. In the commentary, Shankara says, mat karma means madartham karma. Do all work for my sake, the Lord is saying. Now, why we should do work for His sake? Why does He need our work? In the Gita and several places in the Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna has said, whatever you do, offer it to me. Yat karoshi tat kurusamadarpanam. So many times He has said. Now, we should ask the question, why we should offer anything to God? What is He lacking? He is the creator of the whole universe, the Lord of the whole universe. Why does He need our work? Simple work. The giving means offering our work or anything to God means 2 things. Not to fulfill His need. He does not need anything. Giving anything to anybody, even if somebody comes to your home to visit and then you give a cup of tea, then why do you give the cup of tea? Not to fulfill that person's need. He can have any number of cups of tea in his own home. You are expressing your happiness, your love, your joy that that person has chosen to come to your home, a great privilege. And secondly, practice detachment. When I give something to somebody, we are severing the connection with that object, which never had in the first place. We think it was mine. That is also given up. Once it is given to somebody, then we should forget about it. It becomes theirs. What they do with it, whether they use it themselves, give to somebody, recycle it, not our concern. Practicing detachment. Detachment from the object and the idea of possession of the object. How to be given up. That's the meaning of giving something. Not necessarily to fulfill somebody's need. So in this way, when we offer our work to God, then it means we are practicing unselfishness. This work I have done, my part is done. I am not concerned about the outcome, success, failure. It's all left to the Lord. I am giving my work, offering my work to the Lord as an expression of love. Giving means expressing love and joy. Any work means it's already a gift. The ability to do work and the opportunity to do work, both are very precious gifts which have been given, which we don't realize. We take it for granted. Only when one of them or both of them are taken away from us, then we know how precious it was. The ability to do work, God has given. And everybody cannot do everything, but something we can do. Opportunity to do work, God has given. Some people don't have any work to do. They are able, willing, eager, but no work. We have received both the gifts. To express our gratitude, our joy, our love for God, for giving these things, our human birth and everything, and to practice detachment from the work and its results, karma phala, offering our work is to be done. That is first discipline. It's done mentally. Chetasa mai sarvani karmani sanyasya, 1857. Physically we cannot do anything, give anything to God. Mentally we practice detachment. It's offered to Him. This is my humble service, my humble offering to God. That's one thing that we can do. The second thing is mat paramaha. God must be the only and supreme goal of our life. If you ask an ordinary person, what do you like to do? He has a list of 20 different things. Job, family, property, acquisition of more property, buying another car and child and family. So many things have to be done, to do. Now, for a devotee, all these other things become less and less important. Only one thing remains on the list, and that is to know God. That should be brought to the top of the list. Other things are less important. Eventually, those things have to be checked out. Knowing God is the only goal of life. God is my most important goal in life. All other things will come later. So, most important thing in our life is God. That means making God the one supreme goal of life, mat paramaha. Other things are not important or not there at all. The third thing that Sri Krishna says in that sloka is Mad Bhakta, being devoted to God. People have devotion to various things. Some people are, especially some scientists, they are devoted to their scientific research so much that nothing else matters. They neglect their family, they neglect their health, and they don't want anything else. They don't even have time to eat food or sleep. Dedication to the research. That there are so much devotion is. They are devoted people, but their devotion is directed to one cause, which is also important. For a devotee, the one thing to which we should be devoted exclusively is God. In the Narada Bhakti Sutra, Narada says, Anyashrayanam tyagaha. Ashraya means taking refuge in all other things. Some people take refuge in money. If I have a lot of money, I will be saved. I have no problem. They take refuge in money. That saves us from everything that they believe. Some people take refuge in power, position, and the followers. I have so many people who vote for me or followers, they will save me. All those ashrayas are not dependable. They will pull the rug from under our feet when we need them most. The only thing that always stays with us and always dependable is God. God is the supreme refuge. Mad Bhakta, being devoted to God. Sangha Varjita, the whole summary of Gita teaching, 700 shlokas, is summarized by Sri Ramakrishna in only one word, Tyaga. Sangha Varjita means a person who gives attachment to all objects, possessions, work, name and fame, result of work, everything. Attachment only to God. Giving up attachment is the main spiritual discipline as taught in the Gita and by Sri Ramakrishna. We become attached to everything. We become attached to other people in our lives. We become attached to place where we stay. We become attached to job that we do, money, possession, property. Become attached to the body, our fame. All those things are to be given up. Attachment only to God. Sanghavarjita means giving up attachment. How to give up attachment we have discussed in many other occasions. There is no time to go into details. In regard to property, Sri Ramakrishna says you're only a caretaker. You're only a manager, custodian. He is the true owner. Children also, a person can say, my Rama, my Hari, but really we should know they're all his children. Everything belongs to God. They are in my possession, in my name temporarily for some time. They came to me because I wanted them. Nothing comes to me except as I have expressed a wish for those things. As long as they are with me, children, property, money, body, everything, I take good care of them, do my duty by them. When the time comes for separation, as it inevitably comes, I've done my part. Thank you for being with me for so long. I am free. That's power of detachment. The last one is Nirvaira Sarva Bhuteshu. Vaira means hatred. That's one of the important qualities of a devotee. No hatred towards any being. Why should we hate anybody? If we see the divine presence in all, if we see the presence of God in all, then how can there be any hatred? Samadarshitva. In the Gita, Sri Krishna talks about Samadarshitva, same-sightedness towards everybody, including friends, foes, enemies. Those are neutral to us, indifferent to us. Towards all of them, one should have the same attitude. Suhran Mitra, Ari, Udasina, Madhyastha, Dvesha Bandhushu, Sadhushu Apicha Papeshu. The 6th chapter, we know that sloka number 9. Towards all these people who have different attitude towards us. Some people like us, some people don't like us. Towards all of them, being same side, seeing this divine presence in all, no hatred towards any being. So these are the 5 things that Bhagavan Sri Krishna has said in one shloka. We can do any combination of these things. Combine this with other instructions that we like. But doing only one thing all the time, like chanting God's name constantly, how long can we do, how much can we do? Mind becomes tired. So having a small number of things, variety of things to do, that keeps a spiritual life interesting. So let us leave the rest for discussion or in the question answers. More things will come up. Thank you.
You know, I like questions and answers. So I'll try not to go on too long, give us more time. And we can go over. We don't have any strict schedule. The next thing is just tea and snacks. So you won't miss your tea and snacks, don't worry. I've been thinking very much the past 2 days of Swami Swahanandaji. And of all of our spiritual practices, the easiest and best is holy company. That when we have holy company, we don't have to make any effort. Of course, we're supposed to ask questions and show reverence and all of these things, but if we're really sincere in our spiritual life and our spiritual practice, then all we have to do is just soak it up. We feel that joy. We feel a different atmosphere in the presence of these great souls. I used to notice in the presence of Swami Swahanandaji, my mind would get very quiet. He had that just majestic nature and that peacefulness and quiet nature, even though his mind was always running. There's a great paradox. He's always coming up with schemes and plans. At headquarters, they used to just laugh. Oh, I remember them telling me, that Swami of yours, every day we get another suggestion. And we always say, yes, we'll take it up at the next meeting. He always had some plan. But at the same time, his mind was so clear. It just felt like that to me. And so empty and no attachment. He was above everything. And we find it with all of these great Swamis that we feel that a life of spiritual practice will yield fruits that we can hardly imagine. Because we know that it didn't come from nothing. We know that this is the result of a life of dedication, a life of practice, sadhana, and tremendous devotion. One thing I can say about the Swamis of our order, that there's such devotion to the Sangha. This impresses me more than anything else. We look at some of our trustees sometimes, we think, oh, only busy day and night with the work of the order and everything, but we think the dedication they have to the order, which really, we really believe, the Thakur's body, that this is serving Thakur by serving the order. For me, serving the center also. But that spirit of dedication, really I think about this quite a bit with some of these senior Swamis who try to think, do they ever make any decision with any personal reason behind it? They're almost always, what will be for the best for the center, for the order, for the movement in general. And this itself is a tremendous type of spiritual practice. The other thing we get from Holy Company is a deep feeling of conviction that what we read in the scriptures is true. There is such a thing as contentment. Holy Mother said this is the greatest gift of life. That the greatest virtue that we can get is forbearance, but the greatest treasure that we can get is contentment. And when we see this contentment manifest in such a way, then we realize that these aren't simply things that we read about. We can get a really deep sense of conviction that we can live in such a way that we're content, that we don't need anything else. And what is the secret of that? Selflessness. It's a very simple thing. And we see this in the lives of these great souls, that there's no selfish motive for anything, and this is why they're free. The whole mind is free. They have that tremendous contentment. So I would say of all spiritual practices that this is the most effective one, but we have to be able to soak it up. We have to really go there with realizing what a tremendous opportunity it is for us and how much we can learn from these great souls and get that conviction that spiritual life is something real, that attainment is something tangible, and that it's open to everybody. So to me, this in my personal life, this has been the greatest blessing for me, the company of these great souls, these our senior Swami. So many of them, we were so fortunate that so many of them came here, all different. We heard about Swami Nithyasthanandji. He could bluster and yell and scream. You won't find a loving soul like that anywhere. So much heart behind everything. And all of the Swamis, that spirit of dedication, that love, that selflessness. So this is something that it's a great blessing for us to have that company. And I think this can really sustain us in our spiritual life. That we know that these things are real. They're not just things written in books. And not a question of who has nirvikalpa samadhi, who's God realized or anything, but the transformation. We know that transformation is possible. So I will put this as number one. Thakur is very often asked, what are the means to realize God? Upayaki. Almost always he'll say the Holy Company. Almost always. Sadhu Sangha, Satsanga. And it can be the company of devotees also. So I'm going to stop here so that we'll have a little more time for question and answer and everything. And I will request Swami Sarvadevanandaji now to say a few words. And then we can go over also. We can go a little longer. Hamaraj.
Yes, we have heard that two vital ideas. One, Swami said that madbhakto bhavo. What is that? What is that? Mat karma krit, mat parama. Madbhakto sangha varjita. So that we have wonderful way of leading a life, spiritual life. And also Swamiji said, Atmagyanananda, that satsanga, holy sangha, holy people, their association, their presence can bring peace in us, give a direct touch of God and His presence. So now another aspect of is this, that we really as a devotee, we do try to meditate and focus our mind in God. That's our everyday practice. Our gurus have given us instruction, a mantra gurus gave, and to practice. But this practice is always a problem. We always know how difficult the mind. So how we can make the practice more enjoyable, following Guru's instruction, following the same mantra, that we know that we can think in this way. The three aspects of our meditation is that Rupadhyana, Liladhyana and Tattvadhyana. The dhyana, meditation, is not only to focus on a particular form, that's the only we understand as we got the teachings of our teachers, that we feel that only we have to focus on the Guru, the Ishtamurti. But many of us fail to picture that, to feel really that reality inside. And as is our mind always moves in different direction, so naturally we get distracted and most of our practicing time goes in vain, as it were, struggling with the mind. So Rupadhyana, those who are good artists, probably they can meditate much better than us, because their mind can have some ideas concretized and they can visualize much better. But many of us fail to do that and we feel little frustration. So then mind runs in different objects. How this mind can be utilized in the Lila Dhyana. Mind will go. Mind wants to go. Okay, you go to Dakshineshwar. Mind wants to go. Okay, go to Kasipur Garden House. Go to Kamarpukur. Go to Holy Mother's Place, Jairambati. Roam around there. Lila, divine sport. We know Krishna Lila, Ram Lila. These are eternal inspiration for all the aspirants from thousands of years. So it is when we can try to meditate. If that fails, Rupa Dhyana does not make a success, instead of making us frustrated. But Guru's instruction we have to follow. A minimum we have to do that. There we should not make any excuse. Substitute something without Guru's instruction is not good. We should have to follow at least whatever Guru has said, okay. Then afterwards I am trying, but my mind is not cooperating, it is going here and there. Then why not? We can take the mind and go to one unique description we read in the Gospel or in the Puthi or in the Great Master. Wherever we find some Leela, the activity of the movement, Ramakrishna not in picture, but is alive, is talking, singing, dancing, going to ecstasy. Someone is holding him. He is just a living entity. So this is also one approved path to hold the mind connected with God during our meditation period. And third one is also very helpful, to make the mind run wherever you want to run. Here also first is fixing the mind on God itself. And Bhagavat says to think from the feet of the deity and go thinking every parts of the body till the whole personality comes in your mind. So if it is not, at least that figure is moving, dancing, playing, talking, inspiring, going to samadhi, all these, the mind is little restricted, roundabout. Now the mind does not want to also find that is a pleasurable thing. Let the rascal mind run. Let it go wherever it wants to go. Go to the east, go to New York, and immediately think, what is New York? It is made of Satchidananda ocean. We think of any friend, think of what? It is the ocean. It is the ocean of bliss in another form, one wave. So let the mind run in all direction, in all its expansion, expand into an endless journey, and mind will be tired. And let the mind find that God, which I am personalizing here, it may be impersonal. Or even personalizing, that also can be one practice. Jatra jatra mano jati, wherever mind goes, tatra tatra samadhayo, there and therein you try to get absorbed. And there you find, in the name and form, what is your mind presenting? It is our Ishta Devata standing there. Or it is not in the name and form, but the impersonal aspect of our Ishta. So Sri Ramakrishna says, Sakar, Jari Sakar, Tari Nirakar. Jari Nirakar, Tari Sakar. Whose is the form? His is the formlessness. That formless and form are the two aspects of the one reality, according to the mental condition one perceives. So this may be, that's why in that case, we can get benefit from beautiful songs of Premeshananda Maharaj. You can get the Shankaracharya's beautiful verses at many places. Even that thinking in the Astavakra Samhita, there are verses. You pick up some verses from here and there, and can make your mind meditate on on those verses itself. Go through what by Upanishad. Tade jyoti tannai jyoti tad dure taduantike tat antarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasya asvajyata. Chant that mantra, Upanishadic mantra, and tell the mind that which is the farthest of the further, go, let the mind go. Tade jyoti, wherever you feel that your mind is thinking, anything is movable, try to see it is that same Satchidananda consciousness, or Atman. Tadna e jyoti, which does not move like the, what is called it, mountains and stones and bricks. That is also permeated with that same consciousness. Tad dure, what is farthest of the farther, and what is taduantike, which is the inmost recess. That means here to there, everywhere. That is the Atman, that is the Brahman, no? Tad antarasya sarvasya, whoever whose thought is coming in the mind, antarasya sarvasya, in the inner reality of them, it is all permeated with that one consciousness. You can just spend a joyful, enjoyable period of that's called sabdanuviddha dhyan. This dhyana is focusing on the sabda, the sound. You can do, of course, Mahabhakas and others are also. There remain an infinite number of sources we can take into our mental horizon to just express that and feel the mind engage in God consciousness. That's the point. This meditation, of course, meditation means focusing the mind in one. Distracted mind to bring back one according to Patanjali. But the same effect can be done even in diversity, seeing the same one. Eko bahunang yabudadhati kaman tamatmastang yaunupashyanti dhiraha teshang shanting shashyati neitaresham. So those who can see that oneness, that antaras in the inmost recess, what is that reality, and the outer, that one, absolute one. So these are different ways of making, and also mind, we should give little joy to the mind. Mind does not find joy in meditation. That's why it finds more joy with the external world, what he has seen, what he has experienced, what somebody said, what I have said. All these things mind roam around. But if the mind can be given a little touch of joy, little help, to think. If you don't mind, you don't succeed in this way meditation, okay, think this way. And that was only, it is concentration itself. We may see that, we are digressing our idea to distance and near and far and this, and every being in their heart, all this you are bringing is a diversity. No, diverse may be the mind's flow, but mind is trying to find one, and that one is the Satchidananda Self. So, if we can take our mind and little glimpse of this joy mind finds enjoyable, then after some time practicing this way, that way, as Ramakrishna says, you take your candy, you eat on the right side and left side, or under the tongue or above the tongue, it will be taste sweet, it will like, no? So if the mind finds that sweetness, then meditation will be much easier. So it is a struggle though. So I think that this is one thought, that we can keep our mind into God consciousness always by, with the eyes open I am not talking, I am talking about mind, eyes closed only now, and that is the dhyanam. And then dhyanam can be made really, if it fails this way, we can help the mind to find joy in the other way, lila dhyana. Lila, okay, you are not liking now, okay, go to tattva dhyana. So, rupa, lila, tattva. Will it digress us from our spiritual teacher's instruction? I don't think so. Because all of our mantras have three parts. So one part is the absolute Brahman idea. is expressed in a simple language. Another is the name, and another is the Shakti. And Shakti is the play of the consciousness dancing. So that dancing of the consciousness can be thought in Lila, and the Brahman idea can be brought into the first part, and third part is the Rupodhyana. So it is not contradicting, rather three making a holistic figure of our meditation practice. I think this we can try. Jai Ma, thank you. So first question is, what types of spiritual practices one can do to combat compulsive behaviors? Compulsive.
I don't know psychology. What type of spiritual practices one can do to combat
the compulsive
behaviors?
Some type of compulsive behavior.
Okay. Can you explain what compulsive behavior? It looks like a...
No, she's in drinking, drug.
Even overeating.
I think for
Eating habit.
eating disorder, and habit of doing the same thing over and over again. I think the best starting point for such a person is such a person cannot independently do any spiritual practice. The best thing is to seek holy company. To contact a person who is devoted to God, who is dedicated his or her life to God, and seek that person's advice and spend some time with that person. That will calm down this person's mind, and that holy person can really help this person to settle down and start some basic kind of spiritual practice, like reading Gita or Gospel half a page every day or one sloka every day. That since a person is habitually doing something repeatedly, that can be done. Every day read one sloka of the Gita with translation and think about it. Or every day read one paragraph or half a page of the Gospel or some other. The holy company can transform this person's personality gradually. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. Slowly, over a period of time, that person's life will be changed, and gradually that person will be able to do more things, develop understanding, and do regular spiritual practice. I think taking a company of holy person, his advice and guidance will be helpful to such a person. In the beginning, even if there is no teaching, lecturing, giving talks or anything, just being in the company's presence for some time. Sometimes people come here and there are so many questions, and I don't have the ability to answer the questions. What happens then is, I just make a cup of tea, and I have a cup of tea, that person has a cup of tea, and we talk about various things. And gradually, that person will be drawn towards this ideal of life. So I think holy company is a good solution to such a person.
Will you give any version of it?
No. That's a tough question. Sometimes we seek professional help if it's a real compulsive disorder type of thing. Yeah. Otherwise, Swamiji's answer is a very good answer. Yeah.
But where will you get the sadhu holy company? If you don't get it, but so now you can get it through YouTube and so many.
Zoom classes.
Yeah. Okay. No hatred to anyone also means tolerance of intolerance. How is that achievable in the face of violent intolerance? Good question.
Yeah, what do we do in the face of intolerance? Everything is a balance. We always have to know what are the chances we can really change someone or change a situation. To what extent do we simply put up with things? It's very hard to make a hard and fast rule. One thing they generally say is when we're in the company of good people, then we enjoy it. The company of bad people, we practice indifference. Not that we can possibly love everybody. There's an interesting conversation in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. When Bhavanath, he complains to Sri Ramakrishna that he can't love everybody. And Thakur said, who said you have to love everybody? So some people we hug from a distance. We recognize divinity within them, and we may recognize that there's nothing that we can do to change them, and we try not to somehow forgive what they're doing or allow it or something, but to the extent that we can stand clear of it, we do that. If we can change the situation, then of course, that's the best thing. If we can't, then at least we don't want to be enablers, that we can at least do that much, and try not to let it disturb our minds too much. But we shouldn't think that we're promoting intolerance if we don't stop somebody who's intolerant. To a certain extent it's true. They say that either you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution. If we meet people who express racist ideas and we don't say anything, we're part of the problem. There's some truth in this. But then there'll be some situations where we really can't say anything, and we know it won't do any good. So everything is context and balance and case by case. It's not easy to come up with a very simple answer to many of these types of questions. But we shouldn't condone intolerance, and at the same time we have to understand that we can't spend our whole life fighting against these things. Sometimes we simply have to say, oh, okay, this person is like that. I'm going to stay away from this person. That's all. We have to do that sometimes. If we can by our example change anybody's way of living and thinking, then of course we try to do that. Rakidi?
Yeah, I was wondering, when you cannot change, you don't have to change, but if it is too much, then shall we, stay away when it disturbs your japas and your...
Yeah, sometimes we just avoid people and situations. Yeah. Thakur said that you don't, because the God is within the tiger, you don't embrace the tiger. Right. You salute from a distance. Right. He said, if a drunkard comes up to you, what do? You say, oh, hello, uncle. How are you? Nice to see you. Please have a seat. So, because he'll get angry and he may do something. So, yeah, we have to go situation by situation with these things. Am I right?
Yeah. What can we do? Naturally, we cannot change anyone. Whether alcoholic or this and that, it is all one's own volition. At the same time, Patanjali's idea, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeksha, Upekshanang, Sukha Dukkha Punna Punna, Vishaya Bhavana, Na Chitta Prasadanam. So the Chitta Prasadan, I am to be in safe position, my mind is peaceful, what can I do? My duty is not to change someone, and cannot. So I think upeksha, and at some places, if it is extreme, that condition, what can I do? You bear with it. If we have to live with that person every day, what can I do? Trying change, doing everything, all efforts. Upeksha, you cannot upeksha. Why will you upeksha? Because you have to live with him every day. But that's why it is how to find a means there is very difficult to say. But to internal detachment, that person is like that, what can I do? He will be shouting like that, okay, that's okay. Acceptance. Sometimes, maybe, I don't know. Okay. Because
Give us some easy questions.
we are all struggling for the same, Can you please say something about the eternal relationship, God, Guru, God, Guru and person.
God, Guru, and person.
Person. Oh, that means the person and God and Guru. Relationship is what? Everything is God. If you talk about Guru, if you see the human personality, he is an ordinary human like us. He has his anger, he has his frustration, he sleeps, he eats. He is ordinary. The Guru is not all in the high level of that Guru. But it is question that we try to impose that idea that God has guiding me in the form of Guru and the person who is that person is, the personality is a mouthpiece, or you call the spout. In a rain comes from the roof and it goes out of the roof to different pipes with a face on it. So these gurus are known. That's why in our tradition we don't pay attention to person, Guru as a person. And that's why don't stay close to your Guru for a long time. It will create distrust for it, because you will see that he is a behaving human. And that's why to see who is Guru is Satchidananda. That idea is to be kept in our day-to-day behavior. And when we love our any teacher, he is also a human being. Anyone helping me to go one step up. We respect our school teachers. A great school teacher, if we even find now, we can touch their feet, no? Well, that is respect, you respect. But only love should go for God. Person should be not made too much focus. And Guru Bad comes there, and there is the problem. When you make the person the Guru God, there is a cult it generates. That's why in our tradition, Guru Purnima is everyone has started in our order recently. It is not that it was in the beginning. Guru's birthday, everyone will celebrate his Guru's birthday, no? And then afterwards, in our order, and the 10th President, Swami Vivekananda, our Guru is Ramakrishna Guru, no? And so Guru Purnima, we celebrate all Gurus, the real Guru, who is the embodiment of all Gurus. And that makes the right spirit, that it is Guru is such. Otherwise, how will you say Guru is Brahma, Guru is Vishnu? We take the first part. My Guru is Brahma. Your Guru is Brahma. Pinch him, he will cry out. Guru is Brahma. Guru is Vishnu, Aha, Narayan. He creates the whole world. Is it an imagination? Is an extraordinary emphasis given on the superficial thing. Guru is Brahma. Guru is Vishnu. Guru is Vishnu Maheshwara, Lord Shiva. Like Shiva, like pure and innocent, like that. Guru Neva Param Brahma. That much you can take. Guru is Param Brahma, that's okay. Guru, the person merges into impersonal. That much is taken. That when you bring it, Guru, the creator God, nourisher God, sustainer God, it's too much. Of course, there are gurus like that, but when they tune themselves to that consciousness, that same Guru when one tunes into that consciousness. But take the second verse. Second verse is akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam tat padam durshitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Here you don't bring the personality problem here. He is the person who is showing you the Brahman, who is akhanda mandala akar, in the infinite expansion in the whole cosmos. Vyaptam yena charash, by which it is permeated, that Brahman, Guru has shown you the path. Yeah, that is Brahman. I salute him. Take the second verse. Your personality class will go away. And actually that is also another verse of Guru praise, no? So that is the point better. Many verses will see, the Chinmayang, what is that verse? Similar idea that what the world is permeated with Satchidananda, and that who has graciously opened the eyes of my Ajnanotimirandhasya Jnananjana Chalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena. Yena means by a person. Jena, by a person, to me, this person has helped me. This is my Guru. For you, this person has helped you. But don't think he is an ordinary person. He is naturally representing God, not that everyone gives initiation. So it is something, we respect them for that. But it is the spirit is to be taken. I think then this can be reconciled. Okay? And Swami, how do we exhaust our karmic account in this life?
Good question. I am also struggling with that question. How do we exhaust our karmic account in this life? Ordinarily, the karma that we have, that is slated to be worked out in this life, a big karma packet there, sanchita karma, huge. In one lifetime it cannot be done. So, out of compassion, Ishvara has taken one small part of the sanchita karma and allotted, slated to be worked out in this lifespan. And that's what we have to go through. And even that becomes unbearable, so much karma, prarabdha karma. So Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi and Sri Ramakrishna both have said that while prarabdha cannot be completely eliminated, not at all possible, we have to go through some part of prarabdha. By intense prayer and devotion, practice of devotion, it is possible to reduce the intensity of suffering due to prarabdha karma. Yes, Holy Mother said if you are supposed to lose one whole arm, you will end up losing one finger. So that to reduce the intensity of suffering, of bad karma, good karma we don't want to reduce. Let the good karma play out. Prarabdha can be good or bad, both. The bad karma we are concerned about, which is causing pain right now. The degree to which we suffer can be greatly reduced by intense prayer. And not just ordinary prayer, every day we go to temple, oh Lord, I have this problem, please solve me, that will not do. Intense prayer means, Holy Mother said, 10 to 15,000 repetition of japa every day, 15 to 20,000. Of that order, of that degree, if you do intense spiritual practice, then there will be tangible reduction in the suffering in the suffering in our life due to prarabdha karma. That is possible. Otherwise, you have to go through the normal course. And if you exhaust this prarabdha, then that does not end up our life. Again, will be more prarabdha will come for the next life. Sanchita is not exhausted. So what has to be done? We want to prevent future birth also. This is not the only birth. If you just leave out this life, this prarabdha allotted to this life will be worked out when that's the end. But Sanchita is still there, another packet will be ready. So one more birth. So that also we don't want. For that, we have to do intense spiritual practice to realize God in this life. Fortunately for us, Sri Ramakrishna has said, those who have come here He never said me or I. He said always here or this. Those who have come here, for them this is their last birth. So if you accept Sri Ramakrishna's teachings, follow his teachings, and have devotion to Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, then by their grace, not by your effort, by their grace, this may be your last birth. So exhaust the karma and then take refuge in them. If you leave this body, taking their, remembering them, if not being able to take their name, you may not be conscious at that time. If you take their name all your lives and practice repetition of their name so that we'll be able to remember them and repeat their name at the last moment, then that is at the end of this life. That's what Sri Krishna has said in the Bhagavad Gita. If you, whatever thought is uppermost in our life, at the end of this life, last moment, that will indicate your destination. If you think about God, at the last moment we'll reach God. If you think about world, then we'll come back to the world. So that is the solution. Intense prayer, devotion, japa, meditation will reduce the suffering of prarabdha.
Yeah.
I discussed this question with my son Nilesh, and he followed the Gnan Yoga, and he told me that these karmic things are related to the time, space, and causation. So if you realize the God, those time, space, and causations are gone. That's the way the karmic accounts are
Then you
exhausted.
transcend.
And I would like to know your view. He's 45 years old, and he grew up with you, Swamiji, too.
The last part I didn't understand. What?
He says that Vedantic thinking that will time, space, and causation. If you can answer, then the whole problem is karma is gone.
Yes. How do we transcend time, space, causation?
Yeah, that's right.
So as long as you are in time, space, and causation, you are subject to the law of karma. So when we realize God, then we transcend all these limitations of time, space, causation, and they are free from birth and rebirth. That's moksha, salvation. Then we are not coming back into this world. Yadbhyatvad nivartante tadhama paramam mama, Bhagavan has said. Once we reach God, then there is no coming back to this domain of ignorance and suffering. That's the end of it. It's one-way traffic.
I think your son has said the right thing if we go beyond time, space, and causation. But now the question, how to go beyond time, space, causation? That Swamiji is saying that you do japa, that is the one way. And he bringing Vedantic idea that I am not the body, not the mind, etc. Whatever the idea, that's also another way of thinking and disconnecting with everything. If one can go to the self itself, naturally he is free from bondage forever. Huh? Anyone?
Next.
Okay.
What is the process of doing Manananan? Are there any specific questions one needs to ask? This is part of this what they call Vedanta sadhana, Shravana, Manana, Nithyasthanandji, and it has a technical meaning there. Generally, it refers to this idea of self-knowledge that is based on the Mahavakyas, Tattvamasi, thou art that. So the question that we ask is, who is the real I? And we analyze the mind and we see where our sense of identification is, and we go through that whole process. For devotees, I think Manana simply means being thoughtful. I really do. I think it means having priorities in life. It means trying to decide when we face with decisions, this idea of shreyas and prayas, what will be the easy, pleasurable way and what will be the best thing to do in the long run. Because this is part of that vichara marga. Vichara, Thakur talks about it in so many different ways. Not just this sad, asad, what is real, what is unreal, but vastu and avastu. He uses this terminology. What is of real value and what is a little bit hollow in life. And to think of the ramifications of what we do. That this may be something I enjoy today, I'll regret tomorrow. So to me, there's a very important practice of just being thoughtful and not doing things without thinking ahead of time, living consciously, and really observing the way the mind works, having priorities in life, trying to be consistent between what we believe or what we say we believe and what we do, and just a very sensible way of living so that we don't make bad decisions and we don't have regrets at the end. One of the most important things about the Vedantic teachings to me is that if we follow them at the end of our lives, we'll have no regrets. It may not be that we all have God realization, but we'll think, yes, I led a sensible life. I led a good life. I led a life that was based on a high ideal, that wasn't based on selfish desire, that I tried to consider things before I did them. So to me, that this is a very sensible way of looking at manana. Most of us can spend all day long thinking, who am I? Who is the real self? Who is the doer of action? This is the traditional meaning, manana. But I think just being thoughtful and asking all of these different types of questions. Does this fall within the scope of shreyas, that will take us higher, or prayas, that which is not a bad thing to do, but it's just based on temporary enjoyment and pleasure, maybe a little selfishness, this and that. So I like Swamiji's ideal. Ask yourself, is it selfish or not? If it's something based on selfishness, probably we'll get in trouble, and it won't lead to anything very rewarding in our lives. If it's based on some pure unselfish motive, then we can feel that at least it may not turn out to be the best thing, but at least this is all we can do. We have to base our decisions on something very sensible that way. So that would be one way of looking at manana.
Yeah, but sometimes some people come to me and say, oh, my mom passed away, I feel guilty, I could not do, I could have done. There you have to understand. Did you do it intentionally any bad to mom? Or because you are here and mom is in India and you cannot take care and she has passed away instead of you, in spite of your all help. So that also, manana, not to think and belittle yourself and suffer because you have not done enough. Many people say, I could have done something more. So that's also guilt consciousness, no? But they're the same idea. Did I do anything willfully, or it is purposefully I did it, or I am unable, it was beyond my limit to do any service.
All right, there's one thing. There was, these TED Talks. Huh? There was this one TED Talk. What is his name, Kumar? TED Talks. Huh? About the last thing to say. Yeah. Anyhow, he was a great conductor or something. I don't know his name. He told a story about a woman who had a younger brother, huh? Yeah. And they were in the concentration camp together. And he got on the train taking them to Auschwitz or something like that. And he didn't have his shoes. So she scolded him that, why weren't you thinking to at least bring your shoes with or something like that? Then they got separated, and she found out later that he died in the camp. And then he said, it's always a good practice, whenever you say anything to anybody, stop and think how you would feel if you knew that this is the last thing you'll be able to say to them. So this is the manana, the one way of thinking that is this the way we want the last impression of the way we'll feel. Because she felt so guilty. She never had a chance to see him again or say anything to him again. So that was the lesson that she got from that.
Fourteen questions are here. So we'll have to go a little faster. Yeah. Okay. The one question is, must one have conviction before we start our sadhana, or wait for it to arrive at its blessed moment? This is, I think that one should not wait. that when conviction will come, conviction is a big thing. When they must one have conviction before you start the sadhana. What is conviction? Will my practice lead to the realization? Will it make me reach the goal? If that is the conviction. So that conviction, how it will come at the beginning? We will have little faith, as you call. Little faith. Yes, so many holy people are saying that they are not cheats. All the Upanishad sages are talking about it. Bhagavad Gita is saying about that. We saw many holy people who are blessed. They are saying so. So I should have some faith. And that is enough to start. And if one thinks that I will have conviction first, conviction is done, then you are already done. The God is there and I am repeating His name. It will reach its end, no? Or it will lead me to the realization. So I think that it should be practiced that way, that whenever, not the conviction will come and then I will start, then that chance may come when we do not know. So better to start. We are here, we all have started, so it is not our question. We have faith, that's why we are here. Little conviction we have. And when your own experience comes, that of course gives the conviction, stamp of conviction. I know.
Can each Swami please describe what God realization means? Swamiji should answer this question first. I don't know what God realization means. I talk about all the time in all the classes. To get an idea of what God realization means, we have to see the lives of those who have realized God. Even those who have realized God, if you ask them what do you feel, they won't be able to explain the experience they are feeling inside. Sri Ramakrishna used to go into Samadhi every day, all the time, and people asked him, what do you feel? What do you feel when you are in Samadhi? It's not possible to explain. He would hold his hand like this near his throat and say, Divine Mother doesn't allow me to say more, because it is an intense experience, inward experience. Even ordinary day-to-day experiences we cannot explain in words. For example, I often give the example in classes. Our own personal experience we can't explain in words. Supposing there is a young mother who has given birth to her first child, first baby, just now, and she is holding her newborn baby close to her chest like this, and she is feeling intense joy. If you ask her, how do you feel? TB people will always put how do you feel? They will ask, what can she say? How can she explain the joy of holding a baby in her bosom? It's intensely personal experience. You can't put it in words. Even ordinary experiences like tasting a jackfruit or coffee, for a person who does not know what jackfruit is. Nowadays it's available everywhere. But earlier, in American markets, you didn't get jackfruit. If you tell an American person, jackfruit is very tasty, he says, how does it taste? How can I explain jackfruit? I've tasted jackfruit many times. How can I explain? In put in words, I can say sweet. You see, is it sweet like apple? No. Is it sweet like a pear? No. Is it sweet like what? How can I explain? Best way for him to know how jackfruit tastes is to bring jackfruit and give it to him, let him taste, and then now we know how jackfruit. This has to be known from experience. Anubhavaika Vedyam, cannot put in words, even by those who have this experience. But we have to have some idea what we are striving for. In order to do that, my opinion is we should look to the life, study the life of those people who have had God realization and how they behaved, how they appeared, how they reacted to situations, how they lived. If you look at that, then we get some idea. Not in words, they cannot explain. So if you look at the life of Swami Turiyananda, for example, or any of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Swahananda, for example, how they lived, how they tackled situations. They all had difficult situations, especially Swami Swahananda. So many difficulties came. He was a general secretary, he also took care of Holy Mother, so many responsibilities. How he dealt with day-to-day problems calmly, Even Swami Vivekananda was impressed by the calm behavior of Sardhananda Swami. He said, "You are like a cool fish, something. Your blood is cold, something like that." He said. Swamiji scolded him once, Swami Sardhananda. And Swami Vivekananda scolded Swami Sardhananda for something. Swami Sardhananda remained absolutely calm. Then Swamiji was impressed how calm he can be. Even if I scold you, you are not getting upset like that one. So many situations like that one. So remaining calm, unaffected by good and bad, always radiating peace and joy. Even if you just approach them, they don't have to give us any instruction, no talk, no lecture, no book. If just approach them, we feel a great sense of joy and relief and peace and tranquility. That the power to radiate peace and tranquility and joy, calmness, is inherent in those people who have realized God. So by looking to their lives, we can get some idea of what it means to realize God. Otherwise, we have to get our own experience and know it directly. Anubhaveka Vedya.
Yes. How is sugar? Sugar is like sugar. How is madhu? Madhu is like madhu, honey. Yeah? So yes, what is God realization? Transformation of character. What is God realization? Remaining in the constant awareness of the divine self. Or like you see the devotees, they come down in devotion level. Ramakrishna, ma, nothing but ma, nothing but God there. So that will be the expression of God realization. Swamiji, you want to?
I don't know. I read recently, somebody asked Swami Bhuteshanandaji, whereas I'm reading his Kotamrita Prasanga now, and he said, what does it mean to realize God? To become God. This is, of course, from the Gyan point of view of the Jnani, to realize one's true nature as divine. But you get different answers from different people. We just guess at these things, don't really know.
You become godlike. That is the point. Our nature becomes godlike, simple. We are like human, level from Swamiji's words, you were a cow and you have become a man, you will become God. So this transformation will be coming inside, and his behavior, his words, his talk, people will see the change in that personality. And one will feel that I don't need anything of the world, I am satisfied what is it. So that gratification should come inside. Probably that is the real hope. But expression, as Swamiji says, nothing can be expressed. No Upanishad has mentioned that God is like that.
We hear so much about spiritual practice. Please explain in steps what this is. We have two different ways of approaching this. One is we pick and choose. We do a little meditation. We know all of the different things. The second is we get some definite instruction. This is the role of the Guru, of course. The Guru will tell us that we have our mantra, we repeat that becomes the pillar of our spiritual practice for our japa, our meditation, through our karma yoga and everything. And so it includes everything. Ideally, every action that we do becomes sadhana. This is the real teaching of karma yoga, that everything we do, it becomes spiritualized. This was Swamiji's great teaching, that no distinction between work and worship, that there's a beautiful statement by Sister Nivedita in the introduction to the complete works. I don't have it memorized or anything, but something like that. So we can look at spiritual practice. Our whole life should be spiritual practice. But then, of course, there are very specific things. And if we can get instruction through initiation about how we do our meditation and our japa and everything, then that's the safest way to do it. Otherwise, we experiment a little bit.
Please explain Abhyasa Yoga for a beginner, breathing, etc. Abhyasa Yoga means repeating. Abhyas means repetition. So repetition of what? Mainly Abhyasa Yoga. Sa Abhyasa Yoga, Rama. Vasishthadev told Rama, Ramo sangsara samsthiti. Janmantaro satobhastha Ramo sangsara samsthiti. We have practiced to live in the world and worldliness, life after life, sato jivan, hundreds of births before. Rama sangsara samsthiti. Sa or saw, that obhas which I have made. To chiro obhyasa yogena bina nakshiyate kachit. That cannot be undone by repeated practice. So simply, obhyasa yoga means, I think I am the body, I am the body, I am the body. Me, mine. I am not the body, not the mind, not the mind. I am the servant of the Lord, I am the such. I am just a dedicated soul at the feet of the Lord. Just to surrender, by that process of turning the wheel the opposite direction, it will come out. So I think Abhyasa means repeated practice which makes me divine instead of make me a human. A human nature can be divinized by certain practice which gurus give, scriptures are giving. So everyone can have different practice. One can have a jnana practice, day and night they can think. Bhakti practice, they can pray and do. Karma practice, but as we see in our tradition, the 4 yogas are the more helpful. That practice is very good. Every day, get up and do some meditation. That's Abhyasa. I will do it whether I like it or not. Even time is not there, I will find some time. Abhyasa yoga and meditation, prayer in the morning, prayer and meditation, bhakti and meditation. Then karma yoga whole day to try to think that whatever I have done, oh Lord, I did it for you. Already Swamiji has, in his prime talk, he has mentioned that. So, and jnana yoga, to decide what is this I am doing. What am I so much serious about? What is permanent here? It will remain the same if I get the success? Will that remain? So analyze that. All are in the cycle of Abhyasa. But Patanjali's yoga, you have mentioned breathing. Patanjali's yoga says yama, niyama, asana, pranayama. These practices are called sarma, bhoma, mahabrataha. These are to be practiced by everyone. Ahimsa, truthfulness, non-injury, etc., etc. So these are to be practiced every day because our tendency goes the opposite way. So, and that starting from that practice comes into pratyahara, trying to bring the mind in the focus, then holding mind, then deepening the sadhana. So these are all practice, everyday practice. So spiritual practice is 24 hours. That's why we say, any other job, you have some relaxation, but the spiritual life has no relaxation.
I just had one follow-on on that, Swamiji. The Abhyasa yoga, as you explained, I mean, Swami B, in the beginning you mentioned the 5 different aspects of, we can do one or more of all of these. I think the Gita shloka, if I remember correctly, I don't know if Krishna was intending to put a hierarchy on them.
One if you cannot.
Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat jnanat dhyanam vishishyate. Jnanat karma phala tyaga chantir anantaram. Was the intent to, or is the intent to pick one or the other, one is superior to the other, or we can do any of these or all of these?
I think
already answered the question. Abhyasa yoga, this in 12th chapter, Sri Jnanam Abhyasad. Abhyasa means there in that context, 12th chapter context, it is mechanical repetition. But the real practice of Abhyasa is given in chapter 626, Gita. There in the Jnana Yoga chapter, Bhagavan Sri Krishna has described what is Abhyasa means. Yato nischarati manaschanchalamassthiram tatastato niyamyetad atmanyeva vasham naye. That is Abhyasa. The mind has the habit of going away in all 10 different directions. It will not stay, as everybody knows from experience, don't have to explain that one. Always wandering, going from topic to topic to topic. What we have to do, every time we discover that mind is not thinking about God but about something else, you have to bring it back and make it dwell on the self within, on the divine presence within. That is abhyasa in the meditation practice. The same thing can be done in a daily life. We are not always meditating, we are doing other types of work also. It is a good practice, abhyasa, to every few minutes to pause for 1 second and ask 3 questions of myself, for myself, my abhyasa I am explaining. I ask myself my posture, am I sitting straight or am I slouching? I always find myself not sitting straight. I ask myself what I am thinking. Am I supposed to be thinking, supposing I am doing some other work, I should think about that work, not something else. Am I focusing attention on the work I am doing or thinking something else? I catch myself thinking something else. Doing something, think something. Then I have to bring it back to the mind. And what I am speaking, every moment when I am speaking, what I am speaking is, does it make sense? Is it necessary? Is it good? It is true? Is it relevant? Timely? By checking ourselves every few minutes or whenever possible, we can bring the mind back to the self, to the proper place where it should be. That's abhyasa.
Swami, this is the question.
Oh, next question. To all 3 Swamis, what was your most memorable obstacle in your spiritual journey? What was will be replaced by what is? As if it is, obstruction is past. No, I have not reached the stage. Obstruction is still there very much. What is my most memorable obstacle in my spiritual life? In one word, it is my mind. There are no external obstacles. We are all here in this place in the best position to realize God. Everything we need to realize God is given to us, all of us here. Whatever we need is there. Human birth, holy company, mumukshitvam, some desire to know God, some devotion we have. These all necessary things to realize God. We all have that one. There is no external obstruction. Most important obstruction is the mind, which is unwilling, which wants to do something else. I'm reading this, I'm thinking of something else. I'm reading gospel, I'm thinking of something else. Tomorrow's breakfast. That is the most important obstruction. If you ask me what is my obstruction, and it is not complete, it is still there very much. That is my most important obstruction. My own mind. It's time.
Okay. Maharaj, this answer? This question?
Yeah, answered.
Answered.
What?
Yes, it is all our problem.
Yeah, what we're discussing, it is your problem, it is also my problem at least.
What was the role of Mother Sharada Devi in Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's life? Yeah, her role was to be an equal partner and to be an example, the living example of his teachings. But from his point of view, he said that she'll have to do much more than he did. Yeah, because how many people did he attract during his lifetime? One day he asked Latu, let's count up the number of devotees, the close people, and they got 30, something like that. And so few people really during Thakur's lifetime were so directly influenced. The ones who he influenced changed the whole world, of course. But Holy Mother, how many disciples she had, and what a life of forbearance and universal love. So we can say that he left her behind to complete that mission, which he couldn't do himself in that short period of time, and with his own limitations, that he wasn't one to go out and preach, so he needed Holy Mother and Swamiji. He needed both of them. That's why we needed all 3 of them to actually fulfill the mission for which they all came. This is my feeling.
One question, how do you not let outside situations and people affect you? Yes, true. We are all affected. Huh? So in a good environment we get the good impression, we find inspired to do something good. And if I am in a negative atmosphere, it bothers me, and I get affected by that, and it impacts my character. That's true. So how do you not let outside situation affect you? Then you have to enter your own cell. That means our thinking, if we can create an armor of God consciousness. Oh, this one. That's one.
Did I break anything?
No. It is sound.
Still working?
It is sound.
Huh?
Sound system. Anyway, no, that because the legs touched.
Yeah, I hit it with my leg. Sorry.
So outside.
Instead of you were sleeping.
So, yeah, outside situation and people will affect us. We are subject, that's why Swamiji says, each soul is potentially divine, that to manifest this divinity by controlling nature outside and inside. So outside situation will be always there, inside rambling of the mind will be there. We will have to live in this both the situation by how? Making our own cloister area where, when the what we call the tortoise gets something coming out, it withdraws. So we should have to internalize something and to go back to God, there and take shelter there. That is the only protection. To avoiding is avoiding, as we have discussed many times. If not, we cannot avoid, and we have to stay there. Then we have to do more japa, more meditation. When the dosage of the medicine, doctors increase. When? That infection is more, or some impact of the disease is more, they go give a higher dose. So our higher dose of spiritual practice is necessary. We do 10 minutes japa, we will have to do 20 minutes japa. We have to thinking of singing a devotional song once 5 minutes, do it 20 minutes. Like that, to how to keep the mind from all these different odd situations. We will have to practice that. How does
one get past raga, dvesha? Raga, dvesha means attachment, dvesha means hatred, intense dislike. It's not easy. We become attached to everything. That's human nature. Nature of mind is to become attached to everything from the beginning. So why attachment comes is, by simply thinking about some object, we become attached to it. In the second chapter of the Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna succinctly explained the origin of attachment, desire and their consequences. What happens step by step. By merely thinking about an object, that is enough to become attached to it. Creating a mental connection between me and some object which may or may not be there. It may be imaginary object, may not be there in the vicinity, maybe in some other country. If I think about it, already I have made a mental connection to it. That's the first step. And then that leads to expectation of some happiness from that object. I don't have that one. If I have it, my life will be happier, fuller, better. So I want to have that one. That is already articulated desire in the mind. Once the desire comes in the mind, then we are in already no-win situation. If you fulfill the desire, it does not go away, it comes back stronger, demanding more. And if you don't fulfill the desire, it turns into anger, frustration. And then one thing leads to another. Finally, Buddhi Nashat Pranashyati, chapter 2, sloka 60 to 63. We will now no time to go to that. So the best thing is to watch our thought. What am I thinking about? Is it something necessary? Is it something useful? Is it something beneficial? Or is it something that is unnecessary, even harmful? By watching our mind, practicing mindfulness, we can become free from the tendency to think about things and then other things will follow that one. So raga, dvesha. Dvesha means, why should I dislike anybody? Because that person does something or something that upsets me. That's what beginning of dislike of somebody. Or that person does not expect my, does not fulfill my expectations. I expect him to behave this way, he behaves in a different way. That causes me dislike and anger. So to reduce our expectations from other people. Secondly, most importantly, dvesha will not be there if we practice seeing the presence of God in all and everything. Even in the beginning rudimentary way, again and again Sri Krishna has said in the Gita, all scriptures have said, Upanishads have said, God is present in all. God himself is become not only present, he is the whole world. God himself has become the whole world. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Divine Mother herself has become the whole world, the 24 cosmic principles. If we seeing the presence of God in all and everyone, at least reduces our tendency to have, how can I dislike a person? His personality may be disagreeable, outward personality. His way of speaking, his way of doing things may not be to my liking, but that's not he. The essence of a person is not the personality, body, mind, what is his actions or speech. They are the outermost things. The essence of a person is the divine presence within. If I pierce through the misleading shell of personality, how he appears, what language he speaks, what food he eats, what work he does, if we disregard those things and go straight to the heart of the person, we see God there. If I see God in that person, how can it dislike? How can there be any room for dvesha? That cannot be. So that is the Vedantic solution to overcome raga dvesha, I think. More questions?
Another few are there. Right, we can, 10 minutes. We can. What is that?
Oh. Do monks in the Ramakrishna Order spend much time in solitude? Solitude is a luxury. Many of the monks of our order, they're lucky if they can get some time off or after sannyasa or early days to go and do some tapasya, a place like Uttarkashi. Otherwise, our meditation has to be our solitude, number one. Number two, we have to feel that at every moment our real essence is kaivalya. There's an interesting concept. We have two ideas, Vedanta, one with everything, and then this Sankhya idea, that Vedantic idea also, that we alone exist. And we have to learn to love our own company and feel self-fulfilled and not care about other people, to keep that a mental attitude, because it's a good question. We really, there'll be many times that monks long for that solitude. They'll get a couple of weeks or something. So it has to be something deep within, a mental feeling of solitude. And when we sit for meditation, we really have to feel that even this world doesn't exist. We alone exist at that time. And we alone are our own best company. We alone, that means that divinity within is our real nature. That becomes really kind of our solitude.
Solitude is not only going in isolated place, but solitude is disassociating ourselves from the environment and its impact. How? By deepening the inward practice. Or these attitudes we are talking about, some of the sadhus take different attitudes to go back to their own self. That is the solitude they get. And most of the sadhus are very busy with work, probably they cannot. But they also have their own time, probably in the night time. Many sadhus spend long hours in night time meditation. How they do, that is a different thing. They find joy in that, probably. So that is their solitude. And of course, when rare opportunity comes, one can get some leave for going to Himalayas or doing somewhere. Acha, the Satchidananda Brahman, is human form is Ramakrishna. And he is writing to me. You gave a lecture recently on Ramakrishna embodiment of Shiva. Would you say that he is face,
Face or form?
face or form of what is Shiva?
Lingam stands for.
Lingam stands for. Now I talked with that Shiva is not the person, Shiva is the principle. And what is the Shiva? Shiva, don't think Shiva is a person, Shiva nature. That's why my topic was Shiva nature. Ramakrishna is the embodiment of Shiva nature. What is Shiva nature? Calm, serene, in samadhi most of the time. And he is ready to drink the poison meant for others. He is taking that, saving the gods and the demons both. So this Sri Ramakrishna stands for that ideal. And that is the divine purpose of all gods and goddesses and incarnations. So Sri Ramakrishna embodies that idea. That is the thought behind my discussion. So his face or form of what Shiva Lingam. Shiva Lingam is also a symbol. Everything is symbolic, no? But Shiva also appears in the form of light, effulgence, all these things. Shiva is the lingam or Shiva is the light effulgent. So look at Dhani Kamarini and Chandra Devi speaking in front of the Shiva temple. And Mother Chandra is visualizing what? Shiva Linga, from it radiant light comes. The linga merges into the infinite ocean of light and consciousness. And Ramakrishna, in his essential nature, is in that level of consciousness. And also, he is in a physical form, with walking and Mathur Babu seeing them. Yeah, you can see that Shiva is embodying that form. And you can take so many ways to think. But main thing is that it is a Shiva ideal. All Satchidananda comes down, and the same reality to emphasize the Shiva is Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna is Shiva. That is the idea. Yes, your question. Oh, your question. Your question.
Since it's Ramanavami and Hanumanji is a symbol of purest devotion, can you please talk about why God is more willing to grant liberation versus pure devotion? Sri Ramakrishna said, I don't want to eat sugar, I don't want to become sugar, I want to eat sugar. Becoming sugar means becoming one with God, Satchidananda. Brahman alone remains. Aham Brahmasmi, that experience will come. There is no you, there is no enemy, there is no devotee, there is no God. That's that one way of liberation, self-knowledge, Brahmajnana, liberation. But pure devotion is considered higher than Jnana, Brahmajnana. Since Hanuman, this Ramanavami, I remember how Hanuman answered this question. At the end of the Ramayana story, Sri Ramachandra Swami wanted to give a reward to Hanuman for all the services and key role he played in the whole of Ramayana story. What is Ramayana without Hanuman? So Ramachandra Swami wanted to thank him and give some. He asked him, what would you like to ask me for a boon? Hanuman could have asked for anything. Could have asked for Brahmajnana, whatever, liberation, moksha. He said no. First of all, Hanuman says what he does not want. He says, I don't want liberation. And explains, why don't you want I want liberation? He says, Bhavabandachide sprahayami namuktaye bhavan prabhu aham dasa iti yatra vilupyate. Hanuman says, what a moving answer he gives to Sri Rama. Oh Lord, I don't want Brahmajnana, I don't want liberation. If you grant me liberation, then there is only Brahman, pure consciousness. There is no Rama, there is no Hanuman, there is no Prabhu, there is no Dasa. I don't want that one. Then what does he want? He says, Hanuman expresses his preference for devotion rather than liberation. He says, Yavat sthasiti te Rama loke mama kalevaram tavat tishtuto Rajendra varo yamme vikangshitaha. O Rajendra, O Lord Sri Ramachandra, King of Kings. Yavat nama sthasiti loke asmin. As long as your name is taken anywhere, by anybody, your name is taken in this world. so long, tavat mama kalevaram tishtatu. May this body, may I remain as Hanuman. No liberation, no Brahmajnana. As Hanuman, I want to remain. Why? Listening to the experience, the joy of listening to the chanting of your name and glory. That gives me greater joy than being absorbed in Brahman. So Sri Ramakrishna said, Tathastu. That is why now, whenever Ramanam Sankirtan is done, Hanuman will be present there by his own choice, just to enjoy the listening to the joy, listening to the chanting of Rama's name and glories. That's why we say, when we do Ramanam Sankirtan, we keep a separate asana for Hanuman on the right hand side, with a karatal also sometimes. Yatra yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam, Tatra tatra Kritamustakanjalim, Bhashpavari Paripurnalochanam, Marutim Namata Rakshasantakam. Wherever Rama's name is taken, wherever Rama's glories are chanted, there Hanuman will be present. How will he be present? With his head bowed down in devotion, with tears flowing copiously from his eyes, the tears of joy and devotion, with hand folded in devotion, he will be present there. That is how devotees' preference. Sri Ramakrishna said the same thing to Holy Mother. Oh, Holy Mother, Divine Mother, Divine Mother. Oh, Divine Mother, I don't want liberation. Give it to those who are seeking Brahmajnana. For me, I want to be a little child playing on your lap, 5-year-old child, Panchavarsha Bala Bhava. Grant me that much. I want to be your child, you be my mother. That's preferable than being absorbed in pure consciousness. No, you know me, only Brahman. Who knows what it is like? That is pure devotion excels Brahmajnana.
How do we prioritize or balance spiritual activities among devotional karma yoga, intellectual reading, etc., yoga, meditation, etc.? A question of personal temperament, question of time, but actually the ideal thing is to integrate all of them so that we don't make a big distinction. Where does our karma yoga without bhakti? And the same thing with our meditation. And so if we can integrate everything, then we don't feel that there are very artificial periods of distinctions and everything. Now I'm finished my meditation, I'll do my karma yoga. Everything becomes service, everything becomes worship. But from a practical point of view, we have to see how much time we have that we can give to meditation and prayer and everything. What our nature is. Are we more devotional, or do we want to spend more time in philosophical readings and things like that? So it'll be a little different for everyone. Is having a guru to guide us a must? If we want to lead a good spiritual life, be happy in this life, no. If we want to have God realization, our chances are a little bit better. It's not going to be easy either way, but if we're really serious in spiritual life, we really want to achieve something in spiritual life, then we won't ask, is it necessary? We'll do whatever we can to find someone whose only desire is to see us achieve something in spiritual life. So I always have a reaction to that question, is it necessary to have a guru? As if it's a terrible thing. Is it necessary to take this cod liver oil when we have some ailment, to take some very bitter medicine? There's the greatest joy in life to have a guru. We shouldn't think, is it necessary? If we're fortunate, we have that blessing to have a guru, we understand the value it is and how much it helps us in our spiritual life.
How to lead a simple life among so much corruption, greed, lust and instant gratification. Simple life. So much corruption. Corruption, greed, lust and instant gratification, they are two same. Corruption means, among other things, trying to do something immoral to gain some advantage, in general terms. To gain some advantage, when people are willing to cross the line and tell a lie or cheat something or do something immoral, illegal to gain some advantage. But if you think about this deeply, this advantage that such action brings, corruption brings, is very short-lived and eventually causes a lot of pain. In the short term, it may give some advantage, make me feel good for a day or two, or a month or two, a year or two, but in the end, it will cause enormous amount of pain. Dukkha yonaya evate. In the end, only dukkha will come. So by doing vichara, how much advantage do I get by doing this one? And how long will it last? And what is the price I have to pay? What will happen at the end? By doing this vichara, naturally we will become less inclined to resort to such corruption and other immoral actions. Greed is never cannot be satisfied. No matter how much money a person has, if a person is greedy, he will not be content. A rich person having $1 billion is unhappy because somebody else has $5 billion. So he wish he had $5 billion like the other person. A person who only has $70,000 a year salary, he may be happy and content. Contentment, it does not depend upon how much or how little a person has. It depends upon how satisfied a person is with what he has. It's a great virtue. In the Gita, Sri Krishna talks about contentment in several places. Yadrichalava santushtaha, chapter 422. And in the 12th chapter describing quality of a bhakta, Sri Krishna says, Tulininda sutirmoni santushto yena kenachit. Whatever we have to be content. Contentment is opposite of greed. Greed will kill a person. Some time ago, I gave a Sunday talk about Tolstoy's one short story, How Much Land a Man Need. It was a short story, it was in my high school textbooks about 70 years ago. That only thing I stuck in my mind. Everything I learned has been forgotten. How much land a man need is a farmer story. He was never content. How much land he acquired, went on acquiring. Eventually, he died in his attempt to get more land. So greed is never satiable. Huh?
Land of the coffin.
Land of the coffin.
That much land a man needs, land of the coffin.
Oh, that's a different story. This how much land? This man went to a remote land called Bashkir's area. Their land was free. As much land as one wants could have been there. In an attempt to get more land, he went on walking whole day. At the end of the day, at 5 o'clock, at sunset, he died. To get more land. That's a different story. So in the Kathopanishad, when Yama offered all those things, large kingdom, queen and treasury and horses and chariots and dance and music and everything and a long life to enjoy all these things, Nachiketa, a young boy, he firmly says no to all of those things. He says no because they are there today, tomorrow they are not there. Swabhava martyasya edanta kaita. Second thing he says is, navittena tarpaniyo manushyaha. No matter how much money you give to a greedy person, he will not be satisfied. He wants more money. The best way is to practice contentment. Whatever I have, with that I'll be happy. Greed, lust and instant gratification. The pleasure that comes from enjoying sense objects, coming from sense objects, not from within, not from Atmananda, from pleasure coming from sense objects outside, that has severe disadvantages. In one shloka in the Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna has succinctly explained why we should not seek happiness in the outside sense object. That's 522. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkhayo naya evate adyantavantah kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. Buddha means a buddhiman, wise person. And never hankers for sensory pleasure because they are very temporary, highly conditional. What gives me happiness today, the same object, same person gives me pain tomorrow. It's a life experience. People experience it all the time. Something that somebody that gives me a lot of pleasure today, I love you, after some time, I hate you, I don't want to live it. Separation. They go to court, get united out of love. They go to same court after 10 years to get separated. That's a temporary nature, conditional nature, only pleasures. Same thing about sense objects. What food, what dress, what car gives me pleasure today, even it is there, old age will come and I won't be able to enjoy that one. Sarvendriyanam jarayanti tejaha, Nachiketa says. Even if all the sense objects are there intact, a time will come when I will be unable to enjoy any of those things. Food is there, car is there, children are there, grandchildren are there, house is there, pension is there, money is there in the bank. but I am bedridden, intubated. What good is that? That is not the way to find happiness. Therefore, if you do vichara on all these things, thinking about all these things, vichara, that gradually develops a sense of distaste for these things. Oh, why am I worrying, running after this? This is only temporary. Tomorrow it will not be. Same thing that gave me pleasure today, tomorrow it gave me pain. So this is not the way to find happiness. There must be superior way to find happiness. Happiness that is unconditional, permanent, eternal, infinite. That source of happiness is within me. This vichara leads us to turn away from the sense objects, from the world outside, lust and all those things, objects of lust, all those things, and turn our attention slowly to the real source of happiness, which is inherently within us. Anything that is not present now, that has to be acquired as a result of effort, is not going to be permanent. Because all effort is temporary, permanent, and limited in duration and magnitude. All result of effort will also be temporary, impermanent, and limited in magnitude. That's not the way to find happiness. Vedanta shows the way. The way to find true happiness is within you already, inherently present, is never absent. Go and seek happiness inside, not in the world outside. By doing this kind of vichara, and holy company, of course, helps us in doing this kind of vichara, then we can gradually turn our mind away from this world of sense objects.
We have finished all the questions. One is there. Last one. And that is answered by so much, answered by this time. The question is, does Thakur give suffering to devotees? It is to make us strong. If we are a devotee, we will say, whatever he does good for me. Even that bad which appears to me has a meaning. Otherwise, why he is giving? He loves me most. He is to wipe out my bad karmas. He is giving this. We think like that. That's a good idea. A devotee should think like. But you go to the another side, then the question comes, he gives suffering? What type of person is he? He loves me and also gives suffering. Can he not withdraw this? That's why Gita's idea comes, na datte kasyachit papam na chaiva sukritang vibhu. I don't give anyone any papa or the result of papa to suffer or any good or bad. I don't do that. We are the inheritor of our own karma. So we can think that is that way. But really a devotee can think, yes, everything God is doing for me is for my good, for my benefit. That story, that the king and the prince and the story of the prime minister, both went into hunting. That story I forgot to tell long time. I am remembering after maybe 3 years that they both went in hunting, and then the prince got his body cut to the bushes while going hunting or riding the horses. And the other friend says, prince said, who said anyhow, either of them, that it is all God, whatever he does is good. And the friend got angry. He said, what? I am bleeding and you are saying it is God has given all blessings. And she threw him away. And he fell into the well. And the other friend was going, and suddenly he was caught by some, what you call the Kali worshippers. They were asking for a king to find a princely person, and he suddenly find that prince is here. He said, wow, who can be more beautiful than a prince? And we can offer him to. So he was taken to the priest, and then they organized everything. He was going to be in the slaughter. And that time, the priest came and was checking on him, and he found that big cut. That this body cannot be given to God because it is already defiled. Get out. So he was thrown out, and his life was saved. And he then thought, oh my God, I thought it is God is unkind and my friend is wrong. Everything happens by God's goodwill. For my protection, my good, it has saved my life. So he went back and tried to find the friend where he has put him into the ditch. And then he is the poor guy in the deep ditch, cannot come out, and just sinking there. And then he went and said, and made him to pull out of it, and said, please forgive me, I have misunderstood you. You are a great friend of mine, you are right. Then he said, why? He said, whatever God does, that's good. But I have done wrong thing to you. I have throw you into the well, deep well. Then he said, no, you see, whatever God does, that is also good. Because you have angrily put me into the well. That's why these people didn't catch both of us. And as they have got both of us, he will release you, but chop me head. So ultimately, God is so kind. So God does always good. A devotee can think that way. Okay, thank you all. We have a long time of question answers. Do be with you is the question. That not that what I said is the final word in spiritual life. Nothing all like that. But it is all to have a holy company. This is the holy company in one way. Thank you all. And
we have tea and snacks in the basement now. It's 5:45. 6:30 we'll have our Arati, and then at 7:30 we'll have Ramnam, and then after that we'll serve food to everyone.
Jai Ma.